site. 2 schools from 2 different cities, 4 teachers, all uniting their strength together to achieve the same goal: create the best landscape school they can think of on the EPFL campus.
We are the first group, composed of 5 students: Joe, Nina, Leo, Juliet and Tristan. On site, something was clear for us. Everything was thought around the lake, leading to the oblivion of important structural elements, and here especially, the riparian forest of the Sorge. That place, with such richness, either about the flora or the fauna, had to be revalued once again. Meanwhile, it seemed very important for us to create a fragmented school, in order to go through, to live and experience the landscape with changing classes, instead of being locked up in a building, a concrete prison. Finally, our last important point: removing the road crossing the site and elevating the subway, giving more place for the pedestrians and allowing the riparian forest to spread.
We want to change how the EPFL's landscape school looks and works. Picture fewer cars and more walking, with the train M1 making it easy to get around. We're thinking of the school as not just buildings, but parts of nature too. Right now, the campus is turning its back on nature, leaving huge empty spaces for parking and storage. We want to change that by making the school spaces blend with the world around it. We have some ideas to make this happen. We can make the school buildings longer, add some extra floors, and let trees and plants grow in the open spaces. This way, students can use these areas too. We also want to connect the schools to the outside world better, maybe by using bridges or making paths that lead to the nearby river and forest. We think students can learn a lot from being outside. Our goal is to make school feel like it's part of nature, not shut away from it. We want students to see and appreciate the natural beauty around them every day. In essence, our proposal represents a mosaic of interventions aimed at realizing the potential of a landscape school, guided by the philosophy that a landscape school is not to be locked up. We strive to create an immersive educational experience that transcends physical boundaries and fosters a profound connection with the world around us.
La mer qui n'est pas salée.
Regarde, ici t'es au printemps, là-bas c'est l'hiver.
Think about Joseph, the group leader. He knows the mountain better than anyone. Martin, the group historian. Yeah, he always on hand to help us to take a step back. Claire, the group's graphic designer. She prefigures the sketches, the views, and the views of the project. Alexander's is always in a hurry and always ready to produce a bit too much. Zita is always ready to laugh and ready to tease her classmates. That's so funny. Myself, Séraphin, an experienced page designer. Before arriving on the site, Marseille walked on the cities all along the Rhône because, as you know, the Léman is a part of the Rhône river. Most of them were working on the biggest city along the Rhône, such as Avignon, Valence, Lausanne also, because we were working here on Lausanne, and a few other cities. Our group was really attached to work with the city of Avignon. Yeah, this city is a medieval city known for its bridge, the Pont d'Avignon, well-known bridge, because on y danse tous en rond. Then I'm gonna talk about our project at the EPFL, the new ENSPL, as you know, the new landscape school called École nationale supérieure du paysage of Lausanne. So our project was mostly about implementing a school on the lake, around the lake, to have a view, to get a view on the mountain and on the lake. Our project was to stay in the historical implementation of the campus, which was mostly all around the Chambre Rhône. And we also wanted to design a school on pilotis for a school living area on a living landscape. Yeah. So these were our main ideas for this school. This school was the view of the school, the panorama of the school was focused mostly on the lake and on the mountain chain of the Alps, just to have the landscape at our feet and at our view. So there's this duality of landscape, and this is the big concept of our school. That's it. Thank you very much. See you.
Hi Jim, happy to see you. We're here in Versailles at the École nationale supérieure du paysage to interview a few students who have just come back from Lausanne and their project designing a new landscape architecture faculty there. Our team was composed of Iris from Marseille, as well as Ronan, Robin, Chloé, Corentin, and Benjamin from Versailles. We started our analysis in Valence, a city bordered by the Rhône but disconnected from it by the A7 highway. The city is also at the crossroads of different natural regions such as the Vivarais and also natural mountain ranges such as the Vercors and Ardèche. Finally, the region is characterized by fruit tree agriculture. Similarly, the site that we chose in Lausanne was marked by this position at the crossroads. First of all, as the crossroads between Old Lausanne and the new UNIL and EPFL campuses. Secondly, as a place where the slope leading towards the Léman gives a sense of a view over the alpine landscapes. And finally, as a place linking old and new urbanity, marked by horticultural uses. On this site, we wanted to develop a landscape architecture faculty that was integrated into the city, and for students and future residents to really interact and learn from each other. Indeed, the city of Lausanne has developed an existing urban project on the site that houses 800 people and is planned for construction by 2030. On the site, we developed different hypotheses and leading scenarios. First of all, we defined key axes that would lead the view towards the Alps and the Léman. Second, we defined an important public space linking the future neighborhood with the existing Bourdonnais neighborhood to the south. And finally, we defined the position of the landscape architecture school in the slope in a way to integrate the school to the topography. In that sense, we wanted to position the school as the entrance of the neighborhood to act as a manifesto and as an identity marker. Finally, the uses for the school are shared between students and residents. Hence, preserved greenhouses can serve horticultural classes that serve both students and inhabitants of the neighborhood. And the Orangerie, patrimonial building from the 1960s, can be used as an exhibition space for student works, showing it to the wider public. In that sense, our project was about redefining landscape architecture teaching through new landscape architectural space. Thank you very much.
When we started, we had 2 points. We had a sentence given from the students in Marseille, which in our case was "a natural swimming line is never straight." And we had the topic given from our teacher, or our teachers, that was connecting the campus to nature. So we had those big two topics. And we then started out with a mind map, connecting points between swimming and natural. It was a bit our approach. On this basis, selected 3 topics connected to water: rainwater, the lake, and rivers, that were all had an influence on the campus. And then we searched on the campus where would we find places for swimming connect these 3 types of water. So we made a map.
Brainstorming together. With that, we try to find some thematic that we want to work with, like such as the water, such as the usage on the site. Basically, it's kind of funny because we don't have really a link between the analysis and the site, because we have an opportunity to work on a side of project.
We are glad to present the new ENSP school in UNIL campus in Lausanne, as a one place which a preserved panorama. This is the section. The site have a potential view, a large meadow, a platen alignment and a Léman lake. A road crosses the site. The project is to create a AA, it's a wall in a ditch, to hide car while preserve the view. These are stand to reinforce this gathering place. The school is built on library. The 3 trees are moved along the wooded path to clear the view. The water level of Léman Lake has fallen by 85 cm to restructure vegetalized banks that are more resilient to erosion. Finally, we create a footbridge to have a lockout paint on the banana building.
Connecting France and Switzerland. The Rhône River was our first reference to approach a new country, with a new landscape unfolding before our eyes in our sketchbooks. Our group was made out of 8 people, with different backgrounds, combining students from Marseille as well as EMILA and Erasmus students. Before arriving to Geneva and Lausanne in Switzerland, the students of Marseille had the chance to encounter the river downstream in the city of Lyon. They could appreciate a dense program of 2 days of visits to inspiring landscape projects throughout the city. The dramatic contrast of Switzerland welcomed us into a full week of reflection on our discipline, international relation between students we had never visited. The task was to think about a new landscape school on the campus of Lausanne, reflecting our ideas on how landscape architecture education could take place in this city and in an existing university context. The group work started with the choice of 3 possible sites on and around the campus of the EPFL UNIL Lausanne, collecting impressions and sketches, photos and videos work. After the so-called arpentage, we realized during the concept development that the best spatial way to express our ideas was to convince a school that could install itself on the totality of the campus. Divided in 3 sections, each with its own condition and design solution, a new DNA or ADN in French will permeate throughout the EPFL and the UNIL. The first sequence of the school insert the landscape structures in the form of vegetal paths into the existing universal skeleton of the metabolistic building of the EPFL.
For the second sequence, the Académie de la Nature et du Paysage takes advantage of an area of vacant land to set up its main building, and around it gardens with an education purpose. On the east side of this central entity, the landscape teachings into the curves that shape the UNIL campus around the Chambron. A number of pavilions linked to artistic and gardening practices will be installed inside existing buildings along the course of the Chambron. Here, the most meandering sequence of the Dinozoid will take the shape of a river renaturation project.
Arriving at the lake, we visited the city of Geneva and 3 projects that deal with water and nature. First, we went to an aquapark, Parc de Mollier, an essay to harmonize the growing urban periphery with the surrounding agriculture, mixing playgrounds with fields and vast views. We then explored the renaturation project of the river Er, an essay to let the once canalized river redesign itself a more natural bed and creating a park in place of the former canal. Finally, we went to the Parc de la Jonction at the confluence of the Arve and the Rhône, and the open space system connecting it to the city. Following it to the center, after all, we were reaching the lake. At Lausanne, we got the task to find and design a location for a future School of Landscape Architecture at the campus. So we made our minds up. What means landscape and what means learning to us? Landscape is shaped through the human interaction with its environment. That led us to the theme of learning through interaction. It is important to us that we learn through practical experience, and we therefore considered the spatializing of teaching elemental. As we are on an existing campus, we want to make use of existing facilities, such as studios, lecture theaters, etc. So we concentrated on the areas for practical experimentation. We all experienced the genius loci at our home universities and wanted therefore to find out about the particularities of the Lausanne campus. For example, the Chambron River that crosses the campus. As a space for interaction, we propose a natural pool, the water laboratory. The pool is fed by the river and through its use creates a dependency and attentiveness to the quality and quantity of the water flowing in and out, though becoming an interface in the ecology of the water cycle, allowing observation upstream, covering the catchment area, and increasing awareness downstream to the estuary. Beside of the water laboratory, we identified various other places that could serve as experimentation areas for different subjects. For example, we considered an agricultural laboratory on an existing farm to address ecological issues, a soil laboratory, and a sealed entrance area of the campus in and around the Rolex Learning Center to address technical issues, and a Horizon laboratory to focus on aesthetics. These sites would connect the school's students to the subjects as well as to the other students and enrich the campus life.
We, as a landscape architect, are invited to visit the site so that we get a direct contact with the elements. As we can see with this example of a project called Bring Back Nature of the River Air from Georges Descombes in Geneva, We can identify the essential component of the area and thus establish an initial sensitive and descriptive analysis of the landscape. These are captured in photographs, annotated sketches, plans, sections, etc. We use these references as inspiration for our future projects. Analyzing and diagnosing them help us establish the needs and the constraints of our on-site project.
We chose to use the King Kitchen Garden as a reference because of its size. We thought that it was a great idea to use it as a reference. Also because it's a site that we all know, all the students know, and the main square is about like 1 hectare, and which is represent quite the size of a school. We also used the IMVT, the campus of Versailles, just as a reference too for the size of the buildings.
The Ever-Moving School is the project that we designed in the international workshop which took place in Lausanne. It was about creating a school of landscape architecture on the EPFL campus. We got the opportunity to create a school based on natural habitats turned into labs, or commonly called studios. For example, the Lake Lab, which is located at the outlet of the Chambéron River, where the students will mainly have practical work for the renaturalization of the banks. The Péniche, which will be the lake house studio gathering all sorts of information about aquatic nature wildlife, will be linked to the lake Léman by a pier also used for courses. In a nutshell, those studios can spread bigger on the territory. That is to say, we can get new labs depending on habitats. Our school is open to everyone and is an ever-changing structure just like landscape is.
The Swiss city of Lausanne lies on the northern shore of Léman Lake, facing the French Alps. The city center is built on 3 hills, Le Bourg, Saint-Laurent and La Cité, on which Lausanne Cathedral stands. Capital of the canton of Vaud, Lausanne is also the Olympic capital. The West Lausanne district boasts a campus that includes the University of Lausanne and the Federal Polytechnique School of Lausanne, where we, students from the National School of Landscape Architect of Versailles, Marseille, went during this workshop.
Hello everyone, my name is Corentin and I've been working with my team, Ismaël, Matteo, Mathilde, Marion, Marta and Ulysse, on the design proposal for the National School of Landscape Architects premises on the Lausanne University campus. We began our stay with a visit to the city and surrounding. Its cathedral which offers a magnificent panorama on the city, and we visited the Historical Museum.
At the crossroad of the Vortex and the Rolex Learning Center, 2 emblematic buildings of the university campus, our future premises will be located on the banks of one tributary of Léman's Lake, the Sorge. Students will enjoy an intimate study environment in the heart of the alluvial forest and observe the changes in the wetland nearby.
Accessible from the Sorge Plain, this area will host a vegetable garden, part of which will be dedicated to landscape architect students, because taking care of the soil is also taking care of yourself. a reduction of sports field sites, veritable water sink for a more reasoned use of these spaces, a reorganization of these edges as a space for experimentation with microforestry creating open spaces. The topography will be managed to accommodate heavy rainfall on one side of the sword and on the other side of its plain, thanks to wetlands and the creation of an additional branch to the main watercourse.
We put ourselves in a state of effervescence, equipped with a notebook and pencils or watercolors. We walk around the site in all directions, using all 5 senses to collect and keep in our notebooks everything we see and feel. It's as much objective data, an old farmhouse, the faculty's anchor point, the passage of a river and its procession of hygrophilious or mesogryphilious plants, as sensitive data, the play of shadows in an avenue of plane trees, leading us to the sparkling lake, the scent of the woodlands in spring and the mud flats on the bank of the Léman. We cross the site in all directions, never taking the same path, meaning that we follow the main paths, but also the more difficult, hidden and jagged corners of the site. We need to avoid being too discerning in our thinking and be as much about the forms as about their porosity. We pay particular attention to the meeting points and transitions. It means observing the woodlands through its edges, the lakes through its shores, the buildings through its anchorage in the ground. We need to be on the margins in the site and beyond its limits. For example, how the faculty meets the suburban fabric and the major road structure. Does the school really need a building? Landscape architecture is an interdisciplinary subject. How can we create a new teaching model? There are many disciplines taught on this campus: architecture, life sciences, biology, and many more. The concept of our school is to bring these disciplines together around a cross-disciplinary curriculum, where the class and teaching would be held in the respective existing buildings, and the landscape architecture workshops would be held in our new university, the in-between university, a school that settles in the interstices, in the margins, at the interfaces of existing buildings. On the one hand, the school will create a special interaction between disciplines around the practice of landscape, and on the other hand, it will invest in and qualitatively modify marginalized spaces. The second main concept of the school is its temporality. It will occur and occupy different places according to the seasons and the potential of the spaces. The spaces will be modified by the school like a stamp that leaves a trace. The school will follow the cycle of the seasons and be sensitive to natural factors and dynamics such as rainfall, sunshine, climatic variations. This data will be captured and collected in traveling landscape workshops known as climatic studios. These will be the physical implementations that students see and use on a daily basis.
Pour ce workshop international, nous avons dû constituer des groupes mêlant des étudiants de Versailles et de Marseille de l'École nationale supérieure de paysage. Le groupe 11 était lui constitué de 5 personnes venant du pôle de Marseille et de 2 personnes venant de Versailles. Les étudiants de Marseille étaient Clément Soubiel, Simon Fache, Pauline Pinchot, Gilles Barracarniel, François Cadou. Et les étudiantes de Versailles étaient Clara Bélanger et Noémie Amonique. Chacun et chacune avait des parcours différents. Simon, Pauline et Gilles, eux, ont fait APA et CPEP, les 2 premières années de préparation au cursus DEP de l'École nationale supérieure de paysage de Versailles. Ils ont ensuite fait le DEP1 à Versailles, puis sont partis à Marseille pour la fin de leur cursus. Clémence Houbiel, lui, a auparavant fait un DMMAD territoire à Marseille. François Cadou, lui, fait un cursus CESP qui est une équivalence qui se fait en un an, en transversal avec le DEP2 et 3 pour finir sur un mémoire et un PFE. Clara Bélanger, elle, a fait un BTS et une classe préparatoire au concours des écoles supérieures de paysage au campus Vert d'Azur à Antibes. Quant à Noémie, elle a fait des études littéraires, puis un BTS aménagement paysager à Saint-Ilan, pour ensuite faire une classe préparatoire au concours d'entrée des écoles de paysage à Antibes. Ces 2e années du cursus DEP se sont affairées à construire un projet de campus pour une école de paysage au sein de l'Université de Lausanne.
Se servir des espaces existants, mais comment ? Ici, les élèves ont choisi le thème de la transhumance et de la saisonnalité. Leur objectif, se servir des espaces existants de l'EPFL et de ce qu'ils apportent pour concevoir une école de paysage. Ici, les élèves utiliseront la chambronne comme lien entre l'EPFL et l'UNIL. L'école d'hiver recherchant le soleil et celle d'été cherchant la fraîcheur et le point de liaison au centre. L'école d'hiver, elle, reste fixe, tandis que l'école d'été va pouvoir être modulée selon les envies des élèves. Différents petits modules seront dispatchés le cours de la chambronne. Ces modules pourront être modifiés selon les années et selon les promotions des élèves. La journée, nous travaillons, nous produisons des plans, des coupes, des croquis pour montrer notre projet. Des conférences viennent clore la fin de la journée. Les dernières heures sont consacrées au temps libre, au dessin, au repos, aux photos. Et après ça, la présentation, la finalité de toute cette semaine. Présenter devant nos camarades, nos encadrants et certains professeurs de l'EPFL.